Welcome to Write Now Workshop Podcast, where you can write a book and change the world. I'm your host, Kitty Bucholtz, and this is episode 209, How to Write for Hallmark, an interview with Leigh Duncan, coming to you on Thursday, August 27th, 2020. First, I need to give a big shout out and happy birthday to my sister Bonnie, whose birthday is today, and one of my dearest friends, Rachel, whose birthday is today. And if somebody else's birthday is today, I meant to wish you a happy birthday too. I'm sure I did. No, seriously, happy birthday. In fact, you know what? I should just say happy birthday once a month to everybody. I love birthdays and I love birthday parties and get-togethers and presents and cards. And it's funny because that's a great segue into our episode. Today, we are talking to Leigh Duncan about writing for Hallmark, and she gave a lot of great advice on things that you can do that have to do with submissions, ideas, what not to do, what to do. Great interview. Really, thanks a lot, Leigh. I'm sure this is going to be helping a lot of people. But in the meantime, it reminds me that I can't buy any Hallmark cards for my friends and family's birthdays because I don't live near a Hallmark store anymore, not in Sweden. But I do love Hallmark, and I'm definitely one of those people who's a birthday card buyer and sender until, again, I am sorry to everyone who expected a birthday card from me in the last 2.5 years. And I didn't send one from Sweden because, yeah, it's just not the same, but I will try harder. Hey, listen, you know how we were talking about parallels and analogies, I think on the last episode? It's something that's been on my mind a lot, well, always in general, but also this summer I've talked about comparing one thing to another so that you can look for ways to learn something new about one thing based on what you already know about something else. And for me, the two things that are usually being compared in my mind have to do with running and writing. So which one of them can help me to make the other one a little bit easier? Because I know about this part, how can I apply that to this part of my life? Or something that I know about this part, how do I apply that to make this part of my life easier or better or whatever? So I just wanted to share with you, several months ago, can't remember how long, May, April, March, I finally decided that I was going to pay actual money and not only download the free app called Run with Hal, but to pay for the service that gives you actual coaching that's personalized to your running. And so in the month of August, I can't believe this, honestly. I was just looking at it earlier this week and I felt like my jaw was just going to drop to the floor. In the month of August alone, I did 3 personal best runs. So I ran a 5K, the fastest I've ever run a 5K since, when did I start? This is 2020. I can't remember how long I've been running, about 13 years, because I started right before, I wanted to do something amazing before I turned 40. So, and I'm 52 right now. So I'm thinking 13 years of running. I ran my fastest 5K ever earlier this month. I ran my fastest 8K ever earlier this month. And just this last Sunday, I ran my fastest 10K ever, beating it by almost 2 full minutes. And that was on a day when I was like, I suck. It's too hot. I'm too slow. This is just like, I should quit running because I suck so bad. And then I was doing the math, trying to figure out blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter why I had to do math, but I had to figure out like what time it was on my Map My Run app and my Run with Hal app at the time that I actually started the 10K, because there was other things that the app wanted me to do before and after. So I had to figure out like, when did I start? When did I stop? How long was that? And I took screenshots of the app so I would know for sure without having to remember it, which is why I know it's totally accurate. And I can't believe that I ran faster than I've ever run before, especially on a day that I was like, I suck so bad. And the previous week, so it's been hot here for around a month, something like that. Apparently this is just a regular, normal Swedish summer. In fact, then I think it was Sunday of this week, it finally got quite a bit cooler, and then even cooler again on Monday, which course, makes me happy because if I'm going to be outside, if I'm running, I'm fine with sweating. Otherwise, I just don't want to sweat. I'm just one of those weird people. But, okay, getting back to it. So on Sunday, I was just like, I suck. And the previous week, I seriously was thinking, am I really going to do this? There isn't even really a race. Like I'm running for the Copenhagen half marathon that is canceled, that I'm now going to run in the back roads behind where we live. So no one cares if I do it. So why am I doing it? And I should just not do it because it's too hot. I'm not enjoying myself. I'm too slow. I'm never going to make my my time that I put on the app. Like I want to be able to run this half marathon in 2 hours and 45 minutes, which would beat my best time by like 7 minutes or almost 8 minutes. And I was like, you're not going to be able to do it. You probably won't beat any times. And so why do it? Just wait a couple of months when it's cooler, blah, blah, blah. I had all these voices in my head giving me all this advice about why you should quit. But I just decided not to because I was like, it's only 1 more month away. I'll make it through. And I kept on running. And then on Sunday, right after I was thinking about quitting, that was the day that I ran my personal best 10K. What? Now, as a parallel or analogy to my writing, like how many times has something like that happened to me? Raise your hand if this has happened to you. It's happened to me when I'm like, I should just quit writing. This is not working. Either I'm not making any money or the book's not working or I'm not enjoying it anymore or I'm burnt out or, all the different times when for a minute or a day or a month or 6 months once, I was like, I'm not even sure this is my thing anymore. Like, what can I compare it to having to do with running? Like to keep on going? Well, one of the things is that I did something different. You know how they say, you don't want to have the mindset where if you keep on doing the same thing, you'll eventually get a different result because that's nuts. And in fact, in my running, like I was doing a little bit of different things. I would learn some new thing and try it out. I would get a different pair of shoes and try that out. I would try doing this and try doing that. And I was very, very slowly getting faster. But when I spent $40 on an app, and then it customized every single time that I ran, it would decide whether or not it needed to re-customize my current running plan. And then several times it has changed it. So now that I'm getting personalized coaching, suddenly I find myself in a month where I did 3 personal best running records for me. I'm slow, but I'm not as slow as I was. So then I started thinking about the writing. Well, I was talking to Leigh and she was talking about how she has, what did she call it? Her writer's club. I can't remember, but you'll find out in a minute. And, people that you don't talk, you get together in the same room, maybe not the same room now anymore, but, and you just write. And you can't go to lunch until you get in your 1,000 words. And then you can't leave to go home until you get in your next 1,000 words. I'm like, that's awesome. That's sort of like having a running coach. I mean, we've all decided these are the rules to our game. So I'm thinking, that's very nice. And then the writing coaching that I do, the whole point of me starting a program called Finish Your Book is because I know so many people who have a book that they want to finish, they mean to finish, and it's not getting finished. Maybe they have a deadline and they're like, I really want to get this done way faster than the last book. So I'm going to reach out for help. Or maybe I've been working on this book for years and I keep fiddling with it and twisting it around and redoing something and rewriting something. And I'm tired of fiddling. I want to finish my book and publish it, get it out in the world. And so that's why I created that program. And then I started thinking, yeah, coaching, asking for more help, doing something differently will get us different results, hopefully better results. So if you're interested in talking about this a little bit more with me, totally no sales pressure, no anything. Like if you just want to talk for 20 or 30 minutes about what you might be able to do to change up your writing schedule so that you can finish your book, get this one done, get the next one done, get them done faster. My first book took me 7 years because of all the millions of changes that I made to it. Anyway, if you're interested, just reach out to me, kitty@kittybucholtz.com. You can find my spelling of my name right in the podcast title there. Also, you can go to rightnowworkshop.com/writing coach. That's the page that I talk about this Finish Your Book course. Give it some thought. Where can you get help? Where can you get something to change so that you can get better results, so that your results change? It's very exciting. And look for these parallels in your life. What is something else that you've done? Maybe you've done some sort of extra education in some field related to a different part of your life. And because of that, something changed. Either you got better at doing something, you lost weight, you became a healthier eater, you dealt with your children better, or improved your marriage. Like, where's something else in your life where you got some sort of help in some way, method, form, and then that part of your life got better? Okay, how can you apply that to your writing life? I'm always looking for things that will make my writing better. That's my number one goal. And my number two goal is, and get the books out faster. So give it some thought. I will keep on letting you know if I come up with more ideas myself. Keep in mind, we're still on summer schedule, so the next episode will be 2 weeks from now, unless I can't do math again. And we'll always have an encouraging words episode on the first of the month. So if that is less than 2 weeks from now, I'm pretty sure it is. We'll have an encouraging words episode on the first Sunday of the month. And then the next interview will be 2 weeks from today. In the meantime, listen to this fun and very interesting and helpful interview with Leigh Duncan, telling us all about Hallmark and what we can do to increase our chances of getting published with Hallmark Publishing. I love them. All right, here you go. Today's guest is Leigh Duncan. Leigh is the award-winning author of more than 24 novels, novellas, and short stories. Her first full-length book, The Officer's Girl, was released by Harlequin American Romance in 2010. Leigh went on to write 7 more books for Harlequin, including the highly acclaimed Glades County Cowboys series, before shifting her focus to more complex and emotional stories, such as the Orange Blossom series and Pattern of Deceit, which have resonated with her readers. In 2017, her book, Journey Back to Christmas, was chosen as the launch book for Hallmark Publishing's new line. Hallmark also released A Simple Wedding and A Cottage Wedding, the first 2 books in Leigh's Heart's Landing series, in the spring of 2020. An Amazon best-selling author and a National Reader's Choice Award winner, Leigh lives on Florida's East Coast, where she writes women's fiction and sweet contemporary romance with a dash of Southern sass. Welcome, Leigh.
Hi, Kitty. It's so nice to be here today and to meet all your friends.
We're glad to have you, and I'm glad that you're safely inside your home there in Florida.
Yes. There are 2 hurricanes in Florida right now, and they are both on the other side of the state. So I'm thankful for that.
Yeah. My husband just told me that this morning, and I think that he said there's never been 2 hurricanes at the same time since we started measuring meteorological events.
2020 is a real bear.
I don't know about you. I had so many friends at the beginning of 2020 saying, I am so glad to see 2019 in the rearview mirror. But I don't think anybody's going to say anything as strongly as when they say that about 2020.
I know. This is a crazy year, a crazy time. When you look at the list of all of the things that have been happening in the world this year, it's just been crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on the other hand, though, to look at some of the positives, the nice thing for you and I is that, even though I feel terrible about what's going on in the rest of the world, my life has been essentially unchanged. I was working at home
Yeah.
full time and I still work at home full time. Same for you,
Yeah.
yeah?
I am very blessed that I am able to stay home and have for the last 10 years, writing full time, and my life essentially hasn't changed that much this year. So yeah,
Yeah.
although I tell you, writing has been a real lifesaver this
Yeah.
year, because I write sweet, lighthearted contemporary romance, and diving into a story and blocking out everything else that's going on in the world has saved my sanity, I think, this year. So
Right. Yeah, that's a good
yeah,
point.
yeah,
I hadn't really thought about it, but now you've got me thinking. I'm like, yeah, okay. I have
yeah.
been actually working on my sweet contemporary romance, even though I also have a supernatural suspense that I go back and forth with every now and again. But yeah, that
Mhm.
hasn't been on my mind at all.
No, no. I got the phone call for this third book in the Heart's Landing series for Hallmark the end of March. And the book was due the 1st of August.
Wow.
So this whole period of time where the world has gone nuts, I've been in my writing cave.
Right.
So,
You've just had to stay nose
yeah,
to the grindstone, huh?
yeah, yeah.
Oh, man.
So, yeah.
Wow.
There were
Well,
days when it was harder to do that.
right.
So,
Yeah. Even if
yeah,
you're not watching the news, it's hard to ignore what's going on in the world.
right, right.
Well, let's start at the beginning. So tell us, like,
Okay.
when did you start thinking up stories in your head, and then when did you get to the point where you sold your first book? Like, whatever part of the story
Okay.
you want to tell us.
I've always written. When I was in I think it was the second grade, I wrote a little novel about a princess, of course, who had to rescue the prince. And that was my first romance, and I just really loved that story. And I have stayed writing forever. When my kids were little, I got married, went to college, got married, had kids, all that stuff. And then when we were, gosh, I think we were stationed in Guam, and there's just not that much to do there, So, and we were thousands of miles from home, and we couldn't call because at that time, this
Oh,
was
right.
in the 70s, there were no cell phones.
Yeah.
Long distance calls were very expensive.
Yeah.
So I wrote when the kids were sleeping, taking their naps. I wrote, and wrote mostly children's stories then, and then kept it up all through their childhood. And then I guess it was, I was working full time, and I was just hit my 40s, and I said, you've always said you wanted to write a novel. And if you don't get started on it, you're never going to do it. So I'd start setting the alarm for early, like 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'd spend 2 hours writing before I had to get everybody up and out the door. And that first novel didn't go anywhere. Oof, it was awful.
Yeah.
And I wrote several more, and they didn't go anywhere. And finally, I was taking some people back to the airport after a writers' conference, and somebody said, "Why are you writing angsty, heavy-duty women's fiction when you really have a lighthearted voice?" So I sat down and I said, "I'm going to try this." And I wrote a lighthearted story about a newcomer to Florida who arrives when the hurricane evacuation warnings are going up. And there's a hunky cop that comes to her door and tells her she has to get out of town. And I sold that book. That was my first one that I sold, to Harlequin American Romance.
Oh, that's the
So,
officer's
yeah,
girl.
that was the officer's girl.
Oh,
And the day that I got the call for that, we'd been going back and forth, and finally I got a phone call, and I looked at the display, and it said Harlequin Enterprise. And I just started crying. I could barely answer the phone because I knew it had to be my editor, and I knew she wouldn't call unless she had good news. And so we were both crying by the end of the phone call. That was Laura Barth. She is a wonderful editor, and she's doing freelance editing now. So yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I'm going to have to have you, after we finish the interview here, I'm going to have you help me write down her name, because I need to get more editors on the show.
Yeah, she'd be great. She's in Canada. So,
excellent.
Yeah.
So you sold your first book, your husband and kids, for how much they could understand. They all must have been so proud.
Oh, they were delighted. I think one of the best times of my life was I called this little bookstore in Sykesville, Maryland. It's called A Leighs Story. And I asked the owner, I said, if you have my book, I'll bring my grandchildren in and we'll show them Mimi's book on the bookshelves. And the kids were, I think they were 2, 4, and 6 at the time. And so we went down to the store, and there was Mimi's book, and we all sat down and we looked at Mimi's name on the book, and it was just delightful. They took pictures. It was great.
Oh, man. Right. I totally forgot. I heard you say, go to college, get married, have kids. And then I was thinking your kids were little, but your kids were grown by the time you sold your book.
By then, my kids were all grown up. So, yeah.
Then they must have been really proud seeing you work so hard and then get to that pinnacle.
Yeah.
Nice.
They're very proud of me, and I'm so blessed to have such great children, and grandchildren. So,
Aww.
Yeah.
So your first book on the shelf, and then give us the story of how did you keep writing books, publishing them. It's an important part of writing to make a career.
Yeah.
Like, how did you make a career out of it?
I wrote 8 books for Harlequin American Romance, and then they closed the line. So I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
And they replaced that with Harlequin Western Romance. And even though my books at the time I was writing some cowboy books, but they were all set in Florida, and they really wanted those books to be set in Arizona. I didn't know anything about Arizona. So we parted ways.
Yeah.
And that was fine. I had met some very good writer friends in my area, Roxanne St. Clair, Kristen Painter, Laura Freeman, who also writes as Fiona Rourke. And we started meeting at one another's houses 2 or 3 times a week. And we would sit at the dining room table, and we called ourselves Writers Camp. We would break out our laptops and we would write. And every once in a while, someone would say, "What's another word for blah, blah, blah?" And we had rules: 1,000 words a day, or 1,000 words before lunch.
Oh, wow.
And then another 1,000 before we got to go home at night. So we were set to be very productive. Excellent. And it was through Writers Camp that I actually sold to Hallmark.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I was sitting there one day, and I had written several books, and Indy published them: Pattern of Deceit, and The Growing Season, and the Orange Blossom series. And I had an agent at the time who had been shopping around my latest book, and she hadn't had too much success with it. And so I was kind of bemoaning that fact at Writers Camp one day. Yeah. And Kristen Painter looked at me and she goes, I hear that Hallmark is starting a new line, and I think your voice would be a good fit for them. I know the woman who's going to be the director at Hallmark, and I'll give you her email. address and see if she would be interested. So that same day, I fired off an email to Stacy Donovan, and I said, I'm going to attach my manuscript, and let me know what you think. And she wrote me back almost right away, and she said, I love your voice, but this story isn't quite right for us. It had a sick child in it, and that's one of the things we really try to avoid with Hallmark, is any child that's in any kind of jeopardy. We don't want to introduce that aspect to our books.
Yeah.
So she said, well, so that story's not quite right for us, but I need someone who would write a novel based on one of our most popular books and one of our most popular movies on the Hallmark Channel. And she said, would you be interested? And I'm like, I don't have a clue what I'm going to be doing, but sure.
Nice.
So they sent me the screener, they call it. It's the movie. And they sent me the script, and they said, stay very, very close to the script. And so I wrote the story based on Journey Back to Christmas. And Hallmark chose that to be their very first book that they published. And they introduced it on the Home and Family show. Oh. And that was another day that I was in tears. So that's this one here. And that's Candace Cameron Bure on the cover.
Right. Yeah, I've seen her in a lot of their movies.
Yeah. So that was fun. And then I did another one for them. I did A Country Wedding, which was a movie that starred Autumn Reeser and Jesse Metcalfe, which was fun.
Was he a musician?
Yes, a country western star.
I might have. I can't remember if I saw the movie and read the book or just saw the movie, but yeah, I'm familiar with that one too. I wish I could just get more Hallmark movies here in Sweden.
No, I know. I live and breathe Hallmark movies.
Me too.
Which, if anyone is ever interested in writing for Hallmark, watch the movies. Yes. Watch the movies until it becomes second nature to you. That life, that portrayal is what you want to aim for with your books. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's great advice. Thank you.
I think Stacy said the same thing when she interviewed with you earlier.
Yeah, I think so.
Last year. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So while I was working on those, they decided that Hallmark wanted to branch a little bit away from novelizations and do some original work. And they asked me if I would develop a storyline that they could use to develop their first original work. And so I did. I came up with a mythical town called Heart's Landing that is totally geared towards the wedding industry. And they have a saying there that they guarantee the perfect wedding for every bride. And so if you come to Heart's Landing, you're going to get a perfect wedding. And of course, I have to have characters that come to that place that it doesn't look like they're going to get their perfect wedding.
Yeah.
And that became the Heart's Landing series. So one of Hallmark's first series. So
nice.
Book series.
Yeah. I read the first one, which was absolutely adorable. And I just started the second one a couple of days ago, but didn't have time to get it finished before we talked.
Yeah.
And then you said that you just turned in the third book.
I did. I turned in the third book. It's called A Waterfront Wedding, and that'll be coming out in April of 2021.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Now, is it a secret who the hero or heroine is? Like if we've read the other books?
No, it's not a secret.
Okay. Can you tell us?
Evelyn Hart, Jason's cousin. from A Cottage Wedding is the heroine in this one. She's a redhead with lots of curls and a very elfin face. And she has a knack for showing up whenever Jason is in trouble.
Nice.
And in Waterfront Wedding, she meets up with a boy she kind of had a crush on when she was in high school, but they never really connected. And they get together in Waterfront Wedding, and his name is Ryan.
Aww.
So, and it's a really sweet story. So.
Oh, wow. I'm looking forward to it. I like the other two stories too.
Oh, good. Good.
Well, one of the things that you and I were talking about by email that we thought would be really fun and interesting for listeners is just the idea of talking about what you think is basically you giving people advice if you're interested in writing for Hallmark. This is advice from somebody who writes for Hallmark.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you have any notes or you just like have some ideas in your head, but why don't we just kind of get started in what are some things everyone knows I am a huge Hallmark fan. I buy the cards, I buy the Christmas ornaments, I use the little gold crown stickers on the cards.
Oh, yes.
You know?
I love those stickers.
Right. Me too. It makes people, in my mind, it makes people know that I really cared enough to send the very best. Yeah, I've been listening to those commercials my whole life. Yeah, and I own some of the movies, and there are actually a couple of Hallmark movies on Netflix over here in Sweden, and I have watched them over and over and over again. Love by Chance is my favorite one that's available
so
to me.
Sweet. That's
right?
That's a great story. Yeah,
I love that one. And then I saw somebody wrote the novelization, and I think I
Yes.
bought it. I think it's on my Kindle, but I think I haven't read it yet or something. I don't remember.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think that's Casey Cross that wrote the novelization of that one. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
if you want, you can just pretend you're talking to me, but there's a lot of
Okay.
people who have asked me, you know, what more can I know? What more can I do? So let me just stop talking and let you talk.
Okay. Well, first of all, Hallmark books are sweet, and you really have to. That has to be in the core of your feeling when you start to write a Hallmark story, and that's more than not sexual. It's uplifting. It's warm. It's fuzzy. You want to give those feelings to the readers. But when we talk about sweet romance as opposed to not sweet romance, hotter romances, a lot of people will think, okay, as long as they don't have sex, or as long as they don't, have an amorous embrace, that'll be okay. But it's more than that. It's when your hero first meets your heroine, he does not notice her figure. He notices her intelligence and her kindness and her compassion for other people. It's deeper than just a physical attraction. And you want to make sure that you carry that out throughout the entire book. We're going to build up to a kiss, not anything else, just a kiss.
Yeah.
Okay. And we're going to provide our readers with an escape. I was telling you before we started the podcast that one of the big things for me this year has been able to dive into a book and tune out the world. And you want to be able to provide that same experience for your readers, that they can dive into this and there's not going to be anything that will carry over from all the nastiness in the world into that book. So we don't have characters that are facing major illnesses. We don't have characters that are going through nasty divorces. We don't have a big fight with someone that, destroys the entire town, or no big bad developers that are going to come in and take over the town. We try to avoid all of those terrible things that would bring angst. And when you're writing about pets, we love pets, but you want to make sure your pet is very well taken care of, that it doesn't get lost, because that would mean you're a bad pet owner.
Yeah.
It doesn't run out in the street and get hurt. We don't do that.
Yeah.
So be very careful that you don't bring angst into your stories. And we love snow, and we love small towns. So try and build that into your stories. So, and if you have kids, kids are so much fun in books. I love writing kids. They don't get hurt. Maybe a boo-boo that would require a Band-Aid, and that's about it. So that's about, those are some of the keys. But really, watch the Hallmark movies. They are really where we're headed with our books.
Yeah.
So watch those.
And there are a lot of books out, so people can just read some of the books too.
Oh, absolutely. We've been, let's see, October 17, October 19, I'm sorry. Let me think this through again. October, what was the year?
2017.
2017 was the first Hallmark release, and there's been at least one a month and sometimes two a month since then. So
nice.
Yeah, we're getting quite a nice collection of books.
Yeah.
Nancy Nagel writes for Hallmark.
Yeah, she's been on the show.
Yeah. Terry Wilson writes for Hallmark. So yeah, really good people.
Yeah. Wonderful. And so also one thing about those pets, they're very well-behaved pets, right?
Oh, yes. Yes, very well behaved. I don't know how they get that way, but they are very well behaved.
That's right. And
they love to go to work with you.
Oh, good to know.
Yeah, they don't like to stay home by themselves where they might get into trouble.
Right. Now, I can't think of any pets in A Simple Wedding, book 1 in Heart's Landing. Are there going to be any pets?
Yeah, I don't have any pets in those books. Maybe the next series. Or yeah. Or maybe even the next book in this series.
Yeah. Well, actually, that's a great segue. So tell us a little bit about, I knew that Hallmark was looking, probably something Stacy said, how else would I know it, but that they were looking to start doing some series and as well some cozy series.
Yes.
So you, are you the first Hallmark series within Hallmark Publishing?
The first original
series.
That's
what I thought, yeah.
Christmas and Evergreen started out with the novelizations, and there have been several new stories along in those lines. But yeah, the first original series was Heart's Landing. Yeah.
So tell us, how did you pitch it? Did you come up with the idea for a series, or did Stacy come up with it after you sent in a standalone proposal? Or tell us how that went.
Stacy likes to really be involved in the development of a series, and she has so much insight and so much knowledge to bring to that it would really not be smart of me to try and develop us outside of her. So after I'd written the first couple of novelizations, and she said, we want to do something original, I said, okay. And I said, where do we want to start? And she said, well, I think we ought to start around a holiday, or some major event that Hallmark really promotes, like the June Brides, or Valentine's Day, or Christmas. They do a lot of Christmas.
Yeah.
And so I thought, okay, Valentine's Day, that sounds great. And I developed this whole world based on Heart's Landing, which I thought would be great for celebrating Valentine's Day. And I took that to Stacy, and I said, what do you think? And she said, I think this is good, but I think it needs to be bigger. And I said, okay. She goes, Valentine's Day is kind of limiting. It's only one day a year. And that might mean you could only put out one book a year. And I'm like, okay. And so she said, well, how about let's shift this over to June and focus on the June brides and that whole thing. And I'm like, oh, light bulbs, that's even better. So
nice.
So now we have this whole town that is based around weddings, and we have streets like Procession Avenue and Bridal Carriage Way and Officiant Street, Union Street. So everything in town is based on weddings. I do cakes.
I love I do cakes.
I do too. It's so much fun. Bow tie pasta. Let's see, forget-me-not flowers. Oh, there's just, the perfect day salon, dress for a day, the glass slipper.
I have to say, I was hoping you would name off some of your business names because A, they're awesome, and B, as a writer, speaking with other writers, how long did it take you to come up and did you draw a map, like a physical one on a napkin or anything? Or because in my mind, like, I feel like I could probably get around in this town because I know that, the meetings take place and I do cakes often, and, this and this happens at the captain's cottage. And so like, how long did it take you to come up with all these names?
Yeah, it was so much fun. Like I said, we have writers camp, and one day over lunch, I said, I want to really have a strong theme in this town. So let's think of some things, and I said, like, I do cakes, and Kristen would say this, and Rocky would say that, and Laura would say something else, and we just kind of started writing things down, and then I played with them and kind of made them my own. So yeah.
Nice.
So it was fun. It was fun. But you asked about the map.
Yeah.
I do keep a map as I'm writing a book or a series. I try to keep a map of that area or town. And I had just jotted one out on a piece of notebook paper. And when I sent A Simple Wedding in to Stacy,
that's a beautiful cover.
Yeah, isn't that gorgeous? And then a Cottage Wedding looks just like it. And I've seen the preliminary for a Waterfront Wedding, and they stay in the same theme, very similar.
Nice.
But I sent that map to Stacy, and she said, "Oh, this is awesome." And I'm like, "Okay." She goes, I think we want to put that in the book. And so
no,
so they put the map in the book. Yeah.
Is it in the Kindle? Wait a minute, which one is that? Is that book one?
This is A Simple Wedding, and it's in the very front, and I believe it's in the Kindle as well.
Okay, the Kindle version usually of any book, it starts on chapter 1's page 1. Right. So anything that came before. Now I have to go look at the map.
You have to go back, and we'll be updating the map for A Waterfront Wedding. So many readers have written and said, "I love the map."
Me too. Especially because I love series, I love reading series, I love writing series, and it's just nice to be like, oh yeah, that's kind of how I visualized it, or oh, I didn't realize, like, that's so close or that's so far away, or
yeah.
Oh, nice.
So when writing a series for Hallmark, plan on writing the first book and contracting the first book. Right now, Hallmark is not doing multi-book contracts. Mm-hmm. So a lot of a lot of publishers do. Like you'll read in Publishers Weekly that so-and-so got a 3-book contract for, their new series. But right now, Hallmark's doing 1 book at a time. Plan on lots of revisions to the proposal. Not so much to the book, but to the proposal. That'll go back and forth multiple times before Stacy's really happy with it.
Yeah.
And she's working with a committee that's also looking at the possibility of those books becoming movies. And so we want to make sure that everything, is smooth throughout the entire process, so that if they decide eventually to turn your book into a movie, that there won't be any major glitches like, oh, we're having this Christmas in Florida. No.
Right.
Have to have snow.
That's right.
But the main thing is come up with a good, compelling story that fits the Hallmark brand, and then tie it in with one of the Hallmark special highlights like June Brides or Valentine's Day or Christmas, and watch the Hallmark Channel. That's really the key. And if you get turned down with your first proposal, keep trying. A Hallmark contract can be one of the hardest ones to nail, because they're very targeted on their audience. Hallmark knows their audience better than just about anybody in the publishing world. Yeah. And they will really help you try to nail that right down to where your book is going to appeal to a wide audience.
Nice. So one of your tips also is have a mindset of it being almost a group project in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the proposal. Now, not so much the writing. I go off and do my writing, and then the next time they see it is at the first draft. Yeah. But we want to make sure that proposal really covers all of the highlights. We want to see the beginning, the middle, and the end of the romance. We want to know what drives the characters. That needs to be in the proposal. And we want to know what their big conflict is. Now when we talk about conflict, though, we're not talking about, fighting. Right. We're talking about misunderstandings. We're talking about, in a simple wedding, the heroine comes to town planning her cousin's wedding. And because her cousin is very well-known movie star, she can't let anyone know that she's planning her cousin's wedding. So she's pretending to be a bride. And every day she goes to I Do Cakes, and she has a cupcake at the end of the day to kind of relax. And the baker starts to fall for her a little bit, but he says, no, she's spoken for. I'm not moving in on somebody else's territory. So the whole part of the book, we've got this little bit of a lie going on where she cannot tell Nick that she's only there pretending. And we've got this wishy-washy movie star who keeps changing all the plans all the way through. And Nick becomes her hero because he gives her support all the way through this process of planning this crazy wedding.
So one thing to keep in mind is, on the one hand, I mean, it needs to be a conflict. There needs to be a conflict of some kind, but you just have to be careful if the conflict is based around deceptions or secrets, that it's got to be not too big of a deception, something very understandable that no one would really get mad at you about if they found out. Okay.
Right.
Good one. Yeah. Wow. And so for writing the series, you sold book one, and
I
then
did.
did Stacy come back to you and say, "Are you interested in writing book two in the town?"
We had, when I pitched A Simple Wedding, I gave her 3 proposals within that series.
Ah.
And she picked the first one to go with, A Simple Wedding. And then we came back as soon as The Simple Wedding was turned in, the first draft, and she said, I really like this, let's go with more. And so we picked another one of those proposals in that original threesome,
Mm-hmm.
and we came up, refined that, went back and forth on that a little bit to refine it, and that became A Cottage Wedding. And then the third proposal that I had originated didn't really work. And so we came up with something completely different for A Waterfront Wedding.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Now I know that I've got a lot of just insert long story here. I end up with a lot of authors from Revell and Baker books on the show,
Yes,
and
yes.
Revell tends towards trilogies, like that, whether they do or don't to give you a 2 or 3 book contract in the beginning. Your series is probably going to be a trilogy. There's not going to be 4 or 5 or 6 or 12 books in it. Hallmark's series are so new. Does
Right.
anyone even know whether or not they'll always make you start over with something new after 3 books, or if there's a possibility it could go on? And the reason I ask is, for instance, Robin Carr's Virgin River.
Oh,
She sold that
yes.
to Netflix. She's got 19 or 21, I forget how many books in her series. Of course, that was just books. It's just that it also became such a good intellectual property to sell to a movie or television kind of place. So has this conversation even come up yet? I mean, Hallmark is still a pretty new publishing company.
I have an appointment to talk with Stacy next week about that. And good. I think we'll be deciding whether we're going to complete A Heart's Landing with Waterfront Wedding, or whether we're going to go on. I think it could go either way. I think it really depends on the readers.
Yeah.
Do they want more, or do they, or is that enough?
Right,
so,
right.
Yeah,
because now I'm thinking of related much more to Hallmark. I've watched at least the first 2 seasons of, is it called Chesapeake Shores or Chesapeake Bay?
Yeah, Chesapeake Shores with Jesse Metcalf.
Yeah. Now, obviously, they took, again, a book series that was already published by someone else, bought the rights. And in fact, as is the case, I used to work in the film industry myself too. Things have to be tweaked. So it's not the exact same story. But again, it's not even the same realm of question, because the books were already written and published by someone else anyway. So it'll be interesting to see what they decide, because it would be exciting to me to think that maybe Heart's Landing could become the new, Chesapeake Shores, and there'd be lots of books and lots of TV episodes and lots of Netflix binging,
Yeah, I would love it. I just have so much fun writing the Heart's Landing series.
Yeah.
I love the characters. I love the town. And I love that everyone in that town comes together to make sure that these weddings are everything they can possibly be for the hero and the heroine.
Yeah.
So, yeah. In fact, in A Waterfront Wedding, the hero, Ryan, he says he's been away for a number of years, and he comes back to town, and Evelyn asks him, "How come you're back?" He goes, "I missed the brides."
That's funny. That would be like me coming back to my hometown in the Traverse City, Michigan area and going, yeah, I came back because I missed the fudge. Like, that's our big thing. We make homemade fudge there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh my gosh, Leigh, I'm so excited to have you on the show. I love your books.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, this has been fun.
Yes. And I suppose I, at some point, maybe should feel bad about how many authors that I have in like Revell or Hallmark. And I'm just
Mhm.
like, I'm sorry. It's just that it's so easy to reach out to authors of books that you like.
Yeah.
And then it's harder to think of like, what's some author that I've never heard of, that I've never read their book, that probably I really should have on the show, you know? But listen, so since we have talked about your book so much, and I really hope that people want to go read them. And by the way, this is a good time for you to do a little research. You can buy some of the first books in a series at Hallmark and do your
Right.
research that way.
Right. Right.
So Leigh, where can people find you and your books?
Well, my website is leighduncan.com, LEIGHDUNCAN.com. All of my books are listed on that website. I'm on Facebook at Leigh Duncan Books and Instagram at Leigh Duncan Books. I'm sensing a theme here.
Yeah, yeah.
And you can email me at leighduncan.com. So Leigh at leighduncan.com.
Awesome.
So,
Oh,
yeah.
that's so kind of you to give people your email address.
Sure. I love to hear from readers. They make my day.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you again for taking the time out. I know you just finished turning in book 3, so you're probably like
Yeah.
taking a breath, but you probably have a whole lot of other things that need to be done in your writer career of cyclical, you know, like writing, turning in, doing marketing
Yeah.
on something else probably.
Right. Catching up on admin stuff, which kind of gets shoved up to the side during deadline week. And then looking forward to writing the next book.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
yay. And good luck with
yay.
your meeting with Stacy. Feel
Yeah.
free to tell her that, well, Kitty said it'd be really nice if you had your own Chesapeake Shores that was in-house, and Hart's Landing would be so awesome.
I'll tell her.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for being on the show. We really appreciate all that you shared with us. It was great.
Well, thank you for having me, and